Hi, welcome to SAVOR on Bonbon Networks. I'm Darviny D, a lifestyle connoisseur who loves to cook and loves to travel, and I love bringing back recipes from everywhere I go. So today I have a special recipe from where I live, which is in the Keys, the Florida Keys. And what's the specialty in the Keys is fish, right? Everyone goes fishing. There's an abundance of beautiful fresh fish. So I'm friends with the fishermen who went fishing for me last night and brought home this wonderful mahi. Now, lucky for me, I did not have to fillet this fish or cook it because that's something I'm really not good at. I cannot fillet or cook the fish. So Brad, my friend, the fisherman, did this for me. So he filleted it last night, took all the bones out, took the skin off, because that's how I like to make the matecumbe. Some matecumbe, you can put the skin on it, but I prefer it like this, just like that. So fresh, smells like the salt water, smells like it's just been swimming, smells like the sea. And one of the specialties here in the Keys is matecumbe. So because matecumbe is a local recipe throughout the lower Keys and the upper Keys, you can make it with any one of the local fish, whether it be mahi, whether it be yellowtail snapper, whether it be grouper. Any of those fish run all over the waters here, and it depends the type of season. So matecumbe is something that is on every restaurant menu. Everyone makes it, but everyone adds their own little special touch to it. In this case, my special touch, or my secret weapon, is fennel. And the reason that I love fennel is because it's a lot of people in France, where I'm from France, my family is from France, we love fennel. We put fennel in everything. We roast fennel, we cook fennel, we saute fennel, we put it in a lot of our dishes. So you'll see that repeated in a lot of my dishes. You'll see fennel and stuff in my salads, in my fish dishes, in my chicken dishes. And my fish, or mahi matecumbe, has fennel in it and a little bit of lime and lemon. So to start, what I'm doing to start is I am going to put my glasses on because I can't see without them. Whoop. So part of the recipe matecumbe that I like to put in is the celery. Celery is not in all the matecumbe recipes, but it is in mine. Celery just adds a little bit of just that little, je ne sais quoi, as we say in French, je ne sais quoi. That adds that extra flavor that people can't tell what's in it. You don't know that extra flavor, but it's usually celery. It adds a little bit of something in it. So I like to put the celery along with my fennel in my matecumbe. So I'm going to grab these and put them over in the pan where I'm going to saute all this really fast and saute it along with some onions that I have right here. Now, my little trick to onions to not cry and ruin my makeup is using one of these little boards. These little boards let you cut up the onion without crying. Imagine that. I never knew that till someone gave me a little tip on that. They also say that putting a match between your teeth, or a wet match between your teeth, not lit, also helps you with the onions and not crying. So this is my little secret right here. These are really fun to do with your kids too. So you chop up the onions. Look, I'm not crying. So now I'm going to put the onions in the pan with the celery that we're going to saute. The onion, the celery. I'm also going to saute the fennel, which we were just talking about before, the fennel. We're just going to put these right in here. Super easy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting some olive oil in this so the olive oil starts to saturate inside the vegetables. So I'm going to put that in here. And I'm going to put this a little bit on the fish as well. Whoop, just like that. So the flavors start to all come together with the oil. I'm going to put a little salt on that as I'm cutting some of the other vegetables I'm going to put in there. So we're going to saute these all together. And then they're going to go with the fish and bake together with the fish. So something else that I love doing is a bay leaf. Love bay leaves. They have their little magical content. So the other thing is that I love doing is leeks. Not many people use leeks, but leeks have a wonderful, soft, oniony flavor. I like to cut them in the middle and then cut them on an angle, just like this, on an angle this way. These are delicious sauteed. Leeks can be put in any one of your recipes. And if you don't like using onions, leeks are a great replacement and they won't make your eyes cry. They're a wonderful, flavorful replacement. They're delicious in soups as well. I'm going to put these also in here. My little matecumbe, that. So now for the capers. Capers are delicious and yummy because they have this little lift to them, that little tang. So you can use any kind of capers you want for this dish because there's different types of size in the capers. Some of them have a little bit bigger with a stem in them that you can just pick up and eat like that, or little ones like this. But either way, they are a must for this recipe. You have to have capers for the Matecumbe recipe. You don't have to have what I add, like the fennels or the leeks, which I love leeks, but the Matecumbe has to have the capers. So I'm going to put the capers inside the pan now. They can start saturating with all the vegetables. Voila, c'est bon. So a couple of other things, roasted tomatoes or just diced tomatoes. I pre-diced them here, but you can dice a tomato. We're going to use both. Any way you want, it can be diced, it can be, I've seen some Matacumbes that are just big pieces of tomatoes or kind of triangle tomatoes or little pieces. So I'm going to add this in here as well with these that were diced up earlier, right? And then there's two more things that we're adding and that's it. Then we're going to go over to the stove and saute it. One last little topping here is the olives. Now if you have the little Niçoise olives, those tiny little olives from the south of France that still have the pit in them, those are delicious. They have all that wonderful savor in them and flavors. So, but these olives are the olives that I found here. But olives are fun. The reason I also love working with olives is because when you cut them, they look like little eyeballs. So you could use the olives on anything. Really fun for little kids' sandwiches, to make little deviled eggs. They have a little face right there. So fun. So I love olives on a lot of different things for the flavor of it, for the taste of it, but also because they're fun to work with. You can be very, very creative with olives, which is always fun. So now that the olives are in there, I am going to put a little bit of the leeks, tiny bit, which we did before. I'm adding a few more leeks, and that is it. So now that I've had put everything ready to saute and cook on the stove, getting ready for the Matecumbe, this recipe requires a lot of oil. So I'm going to put some oil, extra oil on it because all that flavor with the vegetables reminds me of the south of France, which I love. Now, another thing that I love doing is adding a couple of sprigs of thyme, and I like fresh thyme as opposed to the thyme in the jars because in the south of France, where my family is from, we have wild thyme growing everywhere, and the wild thyme is really what adds to the wonderful flavor of Provençal cooking. So what's funny is that over where my family home is, there's a wild thyme that's been growing there for years and years and years and years. Then over where my aunt lives, she has some different types of thyme, and believe it or not, even just a mile away, the thyme tastes and has different flavor than the thyme growing someplace else. Now, call me crazy, but the French will really argue on whose thyme tastes better. So if they're cooking, they're like, no, I don't use that thyme. I want the thyme from up there. No, I want the thyme from my neighbors. That's a better thyme. So we really do argue over our thyme, just like how we argue over our French baguette, which bakery to get it from. So these little sprigs of thyme are going to add a fabulous flavor. Brings me home, I love it, to our recipe. So here we go. We're going to bring this over to the stove now, and we're going to cook this for 5 minutes, just sauteing it around before we put it in the oven. So come with me, we're going this way. Look at these fabulous colors. So now we're going to start stirring this around so it's sauteed, and at the same time as this is stirring and cooking, because all these flavors and delicious odors, look at that. That looks so good with that olive oil. I might even need some more olive oil afterwards. And at the same time, I'm going to be stirring the rice because these vegetables are so delicious over the rice. The rice kind of is a nice accoutrement to go with these vegetables because it soaks up all the nice flavors of the veggies. But we'll do that last because then we'll put the veggies over the rice as we serve the fish. So now this is going to saute for about 5 to 6 minutes. You don't have to stay on the stove or the oven with that. You just come here and move it around. All right, so in here we have what I started with. We have some onions that are sauteing, some fennel, some leeks. The fennel is the best part in here. Some leeks, some celery that adds a little bit of that SAVOR in it. The tomatoes, roasted tomatoes, capers, and olives. Now I prefer the Niçoise olives if you can find those. I couldn't find them down here. But I love any kind of olives because they always add a little bit of fun, a little bit of flavor, and the capers are very, very important for this recipe here. All right, a little Himalayan pink salt, everything, and some pepper. You must always use a little pepper, black pepper. Sometimes I like red pepper or white pepper, but in this case, black is good. That bay leaf is starting to really smell good now. I can smell that bay leaf. Can you smell that? So good. Yeah, it's starting to smell good. So 5 more minutes of this, and then we'll be able to bake it in the oven and put the fish in it, over it. And when it cooks long enough, like there, then what you do, once it's in the oven, you leave it in there, and you can go talk to your guests. So then you don't have to be in the kitchen anymore. Your rice is made, your salad's made, this goes in the oven with the fish, and you're free to go entertain your party and your guests and have a glass of champagne or a glass of rosé or something delicious. So I snuck a little thyme in there because I kind of forgot to put it in there. And the thyme just adds another one of that Southern French wonderful flavors to it. Again, these are my touches, right? Because I'm from the south of France, so I had thyme and rosemary. So I added I snuck in a little rosemary. So now I am going to go get the fish that's been chilling in the fridge because it's so fresh. And I'm going to put this over the fish before putting it in the oven. All right, ready? Voila. Now that smells so good. This is beginning to smell so delicious. Woo, love it. All right, this is delicious now. The smells are coming in, starting to be really good. So now I'm going to put this right here with the fish, right? Put that over the fish, and I'm going to put that, spread it around the fish so the fish can kind of bake there. Oh, this is going to be so good. My mouth is watering. So I'll put the fish over it and put this over it so it cooks like that around. This is going to be so yummy. Oh, I forgot the wine. I forgot to put wine. So, yes, one of my little specialties here is that you put some wine in it. A little bit of red wine or white wine or rosé wine. It's up to you. The red wine makes it more of a rich color. I prefer rosé, of course. So I'm going to put a little rosé in this. I'll be right back. How could I forget the wine? The most important part of this whole meal is the wine, because again, the wine also cooks the fish, but it gives it that wonderful little touch, little extra touch right here. So now that the wine's in, that I forgot, we're going to put this in the oven, right there. Oh, this is going to be so good. All right, here we go. Now, okay, so now we're going to put this in the oven at 350. And what's wonderful about this, for about 20-25 minutes, you know, it depends what fish you have. If you have like a snapper, which is really light, it's only 15 minutes. If you have a mahi, 20-25 minutes. If you have a grouper, a little bit longer. Each fish is depending on their consistency. Could be cooked less long or more long. Less time or more time. So what's beautiful about this, right? You have your rice is finished. Your salad's finished. Your vegetables and fish are cooking together. For me, it's 25 minutes with the mahi. You have time to go greet your guests, put your makeup on, get dressed, have a glass of champagne or wine, and be ready for your guests or for dinner. Voila! So the best part now is ready. Here we go. Oh, look at this. This is delicious. It's ready. This is what our matecumbe really looks like. See that? So I had time to prepare, do things. Look at this. Here we go. Look at that. Delicious. The vegetables all kind of got saturated with that. The fish is, look at that, nice and good. Oh, I love it. I can't wait to taste it. It's so good. If you don't want to saute the vegetables, you can also just put them in the oven as I did before without the fish. You keep them in the oven for 15-20 minutes and then add the fish, go back, have another glass of champagne, and come back. It's that easy. The most laborious part is just cutting the vegetables. Everything else, it cooks for itself. So here it is. This is mahi with matecumbe. It smells so good. I can't wait to taste it. We're going to serve this with rice and the salad like I said before, and it's going to be delicious. So I like to dribble the sauce over the fish because all those flavors are in the sauce. I also love to dip a little bit of bread in the sauce, but anyway, those flavors will go nicely with the rice, and you put the vegetables right around here. So you have your vegetable dish already made. You have your protein dish. You have your rice dish and the salad. This makes a perfect meal for entertaining. Perfect meal when you have your guest over. Perfect meal for just you and someone else. Perfect meal for any time. So again, you can just put this in the oven, not think about it anymore. And it cooks all by itself. There you go. Ooh, c'est bon. Et voilà. This is so delicious. I can't wait for you to try this in your own home. This has been another delicious episode of SAVOR. Bon appétit, and I'm Darviny D.